Hey guys, tonight we begin not with roaring guns or crowded battlefields, but with something smaller, quieter, more ordinary. A folded piece of paper in your hand. It's a draft notice. Ink on government stationery, stamped and signed. The words are official, brisk, but the weight of them presses on your chest like an iron bar. You can almost hear the silence of your kitchen as you read it. The tick of the clock on the wall, the scrape of a chair pushed back. Outside, cicadas buzz in late summer heat, or maybe snow piles on the sidewalk, depending on where your story starts. But either way, your world narrows down to this. You are leaving. The reality check is quick. You wouldn't survive this if you were truly there, plucked from your life and dropped into war. But in this story, you get to drift along in the safe cocoon of imagination, watching through the eyes of someone who once was real. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And of course, let me know in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand in your living room, letters still in hand. The smell of coffee lingers, though the mug on the table has gone cold. You notice the way your mother looks at you, trying to hide her fear, and the way your father clears his throat but says nothing. Outside, neighbors are hanging laundry or mending fences, pretending not to know you've been called. Everyone has heard of boys shipped overseas, boys who never came home, but no one says it aloud. The draft board pulls men from all corners of life. Some are farmhands who know the weight of a plow better than a rifle. Others are clerks who spent their days stamping papers, now told they'll be stamping boot prints across Europe. You're one of them. Young, maybe 19, maybe 22. Too old to feel like a child, but not old enough to carry the burden of war with ease. The verified fact is simple. Between 1940 and 1946, more than 10 million American men were drafted into military service under the Selective Training and Service Act. That law, the first peacetime draft in U.S. history, reshaped lives overnight. You are part of that tide, swept from familiarity into uncertainty. Quirky details crop up, even here. Some small-town draft boards drew numbers in bingo cages borrowed from church halls, the wooden balls clattering like cheap toys deciding men's futures. Imagine sitting on a folding chair while your fate rattled in a wire cage. Numbers read out in monotone. War decided by the same device that once awarded fruit baskets and hams. The first days are paperwork and travel. You pack a duffel, too small for everything you wish you could bring. Your mother tucks socks in at the last moment. Someone hands you a kiss on the cheek, someone else a clap on the back. The train station smells of coal and grease, the platform crowded with boys in mismatched clothes, each trying to look braver than he feels. You step aboard, the whistle shrieking, smoke curling like a veil between you and the life you're leaving. There's scholarly uncertainty about the moods of these departing trains. Some letters describe them as festive, filled with songs and jokes, bravado covering fear. Others paint them as silent, boys staring out windows, unsure if they'd ever return. Perhaps both are true. Perhaps it depended on the town, the season, the man. What is certain is that no one stepped onto those trains unchanged. The landscape slides past, fields, towns, rivers, until you arrive at the induction center. It's all fluorescent lights, barking sergeants, the hiss of clippers shaving heads. Clothes are stripped away, replaced with uniforms that itch and boots that pinch. You catch glimpses of yourself in mirrors and barely recognize the soldier staring back. At night, lying on a thin mattress in a crowded barracks, you hear the murmurs of others. Some talk about sweethearts left behind, others about jobs they hope to return to. A few snore immediately, exhaustion overpowering nerves. The air smells of soap, sweat, and the faint tang of disinfectant. You close your eyes and wonder if you'll dream of home or of places you've never seen. The uncertainty is thick. You don't yet know where you'll be sent. Europe, the Pacific, North Africa. The war stretches across the globe, and you could end up anywhere. For now, all you can do is wait. Letter folded neatly in your pocket, uniform creased, boots shining. And in the morning, when the bugle sounds, you'll rise with the others, shoulders squared, stepping into a world that will demand everything from you. The bugle blares at dawn, shrill and insistent, dragging you from sleep before you're ready. The barracks are a flurry of motion. Blankets folded with trembling hands, boots yanked on with stiff fingers, belts buckled, voices muttering. You join the tide of men funneling out into the crisp morning air, where the ground is still wet with dew. A sergeant waits, hat tilted low, voice already raw from barking orders. You barely have time to swallow before you're running, stumbling into a cadence that pounds your chest and lungs. This is boot camp, and it will unmake and remake you whether you like it or not. The first days are chaos. You learn quickly that nothing you do is right. Your bed corners aren't sharp enough. Your boots aren't polished enough. Your salute isn't crisp enough. The sergeants shout not to humiliate, but to hammer. They are shaping you, smoothing away the individual, forging you into part of a unit. You march in rows, boots thudding in sync, the rhythm foreign at first, but slowly sinking into muscle memory. The air smells of dust and sweat, of canvas tents and mess hall coffee strong enough to peel paint. A verified historical fact. American training camps mushroomed across the country during World War II. Places like Fort Benning, Camp Hood, and Fort Dix became temporary cities, buzzing with tens of thousands of men learning to shoot, march, dig, and endure. Many recruits had never traveled more than a county over before. Now they found themselves side by side with strangers from other states, accents clashing, slang colliding, but slowly blending into something shared. It isn't just drills. You fire rifles until your shoulder aches, clean them until the oil slicks your fingers. You crawl through mud beneath barbed wire while machine guns crack overhead with live rounds, the dirt damp and cold against your face. You learn to pitch tents, dig foxholes, march until your feet blister. At night, you collapse onto your bunk, muscles screaming, but with a strange sense of pride, because today, you survived what yesterday seemed impossible. Quirky moments slip through, too. One morning, a recruit faints mid-drill, dropping so stiffly that the whole column collapses like dominoes. Another time, a sergeant orders you all to scrub the latrines until they shine so brightly. You could eat your Sunday pie off them. No one ever tries, but the image lingers, ridiculous enough to spark weary laughter. Humor becomes survival. Jokes whispered in the ranks, songs sung off-key, pranks pulled in the barracks. Meals are strange comfort. The mess hall clatters with trays, spoons, shouts. Powdered eggs, canned beans, meat stews. Fuel more than feast. Coffee keeps you upright. Bread fills you. Sometimes there's even pie. You eat quickly, surrounded by noise, aware that tomorrow you'll be running again, sweating again, shouting again. Food isn't flavor so much as reassurance. Calories to keep the body moving, one spoonful closer to the end of the day. The camaraderie grows slowly, like fire catching. At first, you're all strangers, but shared misery is a strong glue. You swap stories during brief breaks. Someone from Iowa talks about cornfields. Someone from New York jokes about crowded subways. Someone else admits he's never fired a gun before this week. You trade smokes, share letters from home, laugh at the absurdity of it all. The barracks become family, loud and rough-edged, but dependable. And yet, scholarly uncertainty hangs over these memories. Historians debate just how effective American boot camps were compared to German or Japanese training. Some argue they emphasized speed over thoroughness, cramming skills into weeks instead of months. Others say the American focus on adaptability and initiative made up for the rush. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. What is certain is that you leave boot camp transformed, muscles harder, shoulders straighter, mind sharper. The days blur. Marching, running, crawling, cleaning, shooting, repeating. You learn to field strip your rifle blindfolded, to obey orders instantly, to trust the man beside you. You curse the sergeants, but secretly you start to respect them. They push because they know what waits on the other side of the ocean, and they need you alive. Letters from home arrive, smelling faintly of perfume or kitchen spices. They remind you of what you left. Mothers, sweethearts, sisters, brothers. You read them by dim light, words blurring as exhaustion drags your eyelids down. Sometimes you write back, though your letters are shorter, filled with half-truths. I'm fine. Training's tough, but manageable. Don't worry. You don't mention the blisters, the shouting, the bruises. Some truths are too heavy to send back across miles of paper. There's a quirky superstition in the barracks about helmets. One man swears painting a tiny four-leaf clover inside saved his uncle in the Great War. Another insists the key is never polishing too much. Shine attracts bullets, he claims. You don't know if any of it's true, but you find yourself rubbing the inside of your own helmet before bed, whispering a wordless prayer into the metal. Weeks pass, and slowly you realize you've changed. You wake before the bugle, body tuned to routine. Your boots fit like second skin. Your rifle feels like an extension of your arm. You no longer stumble in formation. You no longer dread the mud crawl. You even laugh when you fall in, spitting grit, because everyone else is laughing too. On the final day of training, you stand in line as medals and commendations are given, speeches delivered. The colonel reminds you that you are soldiers now, ready to defend freedom, to carry democracy across oceans. The words are grand, rehearsed, but your mind drifts to simpler thoughts. The sound of the bugle, the smell of coffee, the feel of mud drying on skin. Those, more than speeches, have shaped you. That night, lying in the barracks one last time, you listen to the familiar chorus of snores and murmurs. Tomorrow, you'll leave this camp behind, boarding trains and ships that will carry you to places you've never seen. Fear stirs in your stomach, but so does pride. You are not the boy who opened that draft letter weeks ago. You are something new, forged in sweat and shouts. And in the silence before sleep, you almost miss the sound of the sergeant's voice, knowing you'll hear something harsher soon. The voice of war itself. The train pulls away from the platform with a groan of steel and a cloud of smoke, carrying you and your fellow recruits eastward. The countryside flickers past. Fields, rivers, towns. But your eyes are fixed on the horizon you cannot see. Ahead lies the ocean, vast and indifferent, and beyond it, a continent at war. The chatter in the train car is uneven. Some men trade jokes, others sit silent, eyes fixed on boots, letters from home tucked into breast pockets like secret charms. You feel the weight of both silence and noise, a kind of waiting that fills the air, heavier than coal smoke. You arrive at the port by night. The air smells of salt and oil, the docks crowded with shadowy forms, ships looming like sleeping beasts, cranes swinging overhead, crates piled high. The sea is dark, restless, swallowing moonlight. You shuffle in line, duffel bag over your shoulder, boots clanging on gangplanks as you board the transport ship. Its decks groan under thousands of men packed tight, the hum of engines vibrating beneath your feet. You find your bunk deep in the belly of the ship. A narrow canvas sling strung between pipes, one of hundreds stacked in layers. The air is thick with sweat, oil, and the faint tang of vomit from seasick soldiers already regretting the voyage. A historical fact. More than 16 million Americans served in World War II, and millions crossed the Atlantic on troop ships like the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth, luxury liners refitted to carry thousands of soldiers at a time. Packed beyond their intended capacity, these ships became floating barracks, moving fortresses, and sometimes floating prisons of seasickness and nerves. The first night is restless. The ship lurches with the waves, canvas bunks swaying. The man above you moans, the man below snores. Somewhere a deck creaks like a tired voice. You close your eyes, but dream of the sea swallowing you whole. Morning brings routine. Mess hall lines stretching forever, trays clattering, powdered eggs again, watery coffee. Above deck, the ocean stretches in all directions, endless, shimmering, terrifying. The horizon swallows sky and water alike, leaving you adrift in sameness. Gulls follow for a while, but soon even they vanish, leaving only waves and the occasional shadow of another ship in the convoy. You grip the rail, wind whipping your face, salt stinging your lips. Somewhere beneath these waters lurk U-boats, German submarines, silent predators. The thought creeps in during quiet moments. One torpedo, and this floating barracks could become a coffin. Quirky details surface among the monotony. Soldiers devise games to distract themselves. Dice clattering on deck, cards spread across overturned crates. Some hold boxing matches in narrow spaces, gloves thumping flesh as men cheer, grateful for spectacle. Others carve chess pieces from soap or whittle figurines from scrap wood. Anything to make the days pass faster, anything to keep fear at bay. Mail doesn't reach you here, but rumors do. Someone swears we're headed to North Africa. Another insists England. A third whispers about secret landings in France. The uncertainty gnaws. Historians today still debate how much soldiers were told before they embarked. But the truth is, most of you knew little. Orders trickled down only when necessary, leaving imagination to fill the void. And imagination, crowded with fear and hope, often paints sharper pictures than fact. The sea itself becomes a kind of world. You measure time not by calendars, but by meals, drills, sunsets. Some evenings the sky burns with orange and purple, the sea calm as glass. Other days storms batter the decks, waves crashing, wind shrieking, men clutching rails, stomachs heaving. You learn to walk with the roll of the ship, to sleep despite its sway, to live with the constant groan of engines and slap of waves. One night, alarms blare. U-boat sighted. Lights snap off. Footsteps thunder. Hearts pound. You crouch in the dark, breath held, listening for the sound of impact, for the hiss of water. Depth charges boom. The ship trembling, the ocean erupting in geysers of foam. Minutes stretch like hours. Then silence returns, the convoy steaming on. Was it real or just rumor? Historians still argue whether some U-boat attacks were exaggerated, fear magnified by imagination. But for you, in the dark belly of the ship, it feels real enough. You make friends here, strange friendships born of confinement. A man from Texas tells stories of ranches. Another from Brooklyn sings snatches of jazz. Someone from Ohio sketches cartoons on scraps of paper, passing them around for laughs. These faces, unknown weeks ago, become familiar, comforting. Their laughter eases tension, their presence wards off loneliness. You realize you're no longer just an individual. You are part of a tide, a vast sea of men moving together. At night, you slip above deck, the stars sharp as knives, the Milky Way spilling across the sky. No city lights dull them here. It feels like the heavens are closer, watching. You grip the rail, listening to the hum of engines, the whisper of waves. The sea stretches forever. But for a moment, it feels almost peaceful. Until you remember why you're crossing it. After weeks, the cry finally comes. Land ahead. The outline of England emerges through mist, cliffs pale against gray sky. The ship slows, tugs guiding it into port. Crowds wait on shore, uniforms, dock workers, Red Cross volunteers with tea and biscuits. The air smells of coal smoke and wet earth. Different, but oddly familiar. You step off the gangplank, boots hitting foreign soil, and realize this is no longer training, no longer waiting. You are in the war now, whether ready or not. The gangplank creaks beneath your boots as you step down into England. The first thing you notice is the air. It's damp, heavy with coal smoke, and carries the faint sweetness of wet grass. The second thing is the sound. Accents everywhere, sharp and clipped, voices calling out words you half understand. Soldiers bark orders, dock workers shout, and women in Red Cross uniforms offer steaming mugs of tea. You take one, sip cautiously, and find it strong, bitter, and oddly comforting. The war has brought you to another world, and this is your welcome. England in wartime feels at once familiar and foreign. The streets are narrow, cobblestoned, lined with brick houses that lean slightly with age. Windows are blacked out at night, curtains drawn tight, lamps dimmed to prevent German bombers from spotting targets below. You stumble through the streets in formation, duffel slung over your shoulder, the rain misting down, boots striking stone. Children wave at you, shouting, "Yanks!" with excitement, while older folks watch with quieter eyes, remembering the Blitz, remembering nights of fire raining from the sky. A historical fact anchors you here. By 1944, Britain had become the staging ground for the largest invasion in history. More than 1 million American soldiers passed through towns, villages, and camps across England, training for the assault on Fortress Europe. Bases sprouted in farmland, tents and barracks dotting fields where sheep once grazed. The countryside itself became part of the machinery of war. Your days are filled with drills, marching across muddy fields, firing at ranges, crawling through obstacle courses. The rain seems endless, turning everything slick, boots heavy with mud. You practice loading and unloading landing craft on the southern coast, waves slapping the sides, cold spray soaking uniforms. Officers shout, stopwatches ticking, every second shaved off, meaning lives saved later. You do it again and again, until the movements sink into your muscles like second nature. Quirky details sneak in, even here. British locals, curious about American soldiers, sometimes ask about chewing gum or nylons, both rare luxuries after years of rationing. Kids trade jokes for candy bars, their faces lighting up as you hand over Hershey's chocolate. In pubs, you're introduced to warm beer. Confusing at first, but easy enough to drink after a long day. The chalk cliffs, the hedgerows, the sheep staring blankly at columns of tanks. They all become part of your strange new routine. Evenings bring moments of calm. You and your buddies wander into town, filling pubs with laughter and swing music played on battered gramophones. The locals teach you darts. You teach them baseball, pantomiming with broom handles and stones. Sometimes a dance is held in the village hall, and you sway awkwardly with girls in floral dresses, their smiles bright despite rationed shoes and powdered milk. For a few hours, war feels distant, as if it belongs only to the sound of waves against the coast. Yet uncertainty hums beneath it all. You don't know when the invasion will come or where. Rumors fly. Calais, Normandy, even Norway. Some men swear it will be soon. Others whisper it could be months. Historians still argue how much the average soldier knew before D-Day. Secrecy was tight, maps hidden, orders sealed. You live in a haze of waiting, training, hoping, fearing. At night, lying in your bunk in a drafty barracks, you hear bombers droning overhead. Sometimes they are Allied planes heading east, sometimes German raids slipping through. The air raid sirens wail, and you shuffle to shelters with the locals, listening to distant thuds as bombs fall. The earth shakes faintly, dust trickling from beams, and you imagine London burning as it once did during the Blitz. You grip your helmet, heart pounding, realizing that war is not far away. It is above you, around you, pressing closer each night. There are lighter moments, too. British soldiers rib you for your accent, your rations, your brashness. You rib them back, comparing gear, swapping slang. A curious friendship forms, forged in shared cigarettes and long nights. They tell you of Dunkirk, of the Desert War in North Africa, of holding out alone when the world seemed lost. You listen, humbled, realizing that your fight is only beginning, while theirs has already lasted years. One day, training shifts to something sharper. You're handed a map of the French coast, though it's only a fragment, carefully marked. You practice storming beaches on English shores, live fires snapping overhead, sand stinging your skin. Engineers show you how to wire explosives. Medics show you how to bandage wounds under fire. You carry packs heavy enough to crush you, wade through water until your legs go numb, haul yourself into landing craft again and again. The officers don't say it, but everyone knows. This is rehearsal for something enormous. Quirky superstitions take root. Some men refuse to shave before big drills, believing whiskers bring luck. Others sew tiny charms into their uniforms. Coins, lockets, four-leaf clovers. One man insists on carrying a small Bible in his breast pocket, swearing it will stop a bullet. You don't know if you believe, but you rub the edge of your helmet again, whispering a wordless plea, as you did back at camp. As spring turns toward summer, you sense change in the air. More planes fill the skies, more ships crowd the ports. Officers grow tighter-lipped, drills harsher. The countryside hums with movement, columns of trucks, tanks, jeeps rolling through villages. Farmers pause in fields to watch, their faces unreadable. Children cheer, chasing alongside until the dust blinds them. Something is coming, close now, close enough you can feel it in your chest. One evening, you walk to a hill overlooking the sea. Below, you see the glitter of ships packed into harbors, their hulls dark against the twilight. Beyond them, the horizon stretches, gray and endless, hiding a continent waiting. The wind smells of salt and smoke, and you think of the draft letter that started it all, the bugle at camp, the rolling sea. You are far from home, yet part of something larger than you can grasp. The waiting is almost over. Soon the world will shift again, and you will step off a landing craft into history. For now, though, you stand on English soil, boots damp with grass, heart heavy with anticipation, watching the tide roll in and out as it always has, as if indifferent to the wars of men. The night before the crossing, the camp feels different. Orders have been sealed and opened, whispers replaced by certainty. You are going to France, Normandy. The invasion everyone has trained for, rehearsed for, whispered about in barracks and pubs, is no longer rumor. It is dawn waiting beyond darkness. You sit in your bunk, gear packed tight, boots polished out of habit, though you know salt water will dull them within minutes. The air is heavy, not just with anticipation, but with silence. Men who usually joked and sang now sit quiet, smoking cigarettes down to their filters, eyes fixed on the floorboards as though searching for courage in the grain of wood. Outside, engines rumble. Columns of trucks roll toward the coast, headlights covered, beams dim. The convoy snakes through English villages, past sleeping houses with blackout curtains drawn tight. Children stir in their beds as thousands of soldiers pass, unaware of the tide flowing toward history. You sit shoulder to shoulder with your comrades, rifle clutched across your knees, helmet strapped tight under your chin. No one speaks much. Words feel fragile, as though they might break if handled. By dawn, you reach the coast. The sea is alive with ships, an armada so vast it seems endless. Historical fact. Operation Neptune, the naval component of D-Day, involved more than 5,000 ships and landing craft, the largest amphibious assault fleet ever assembled. From horizon to horizon, the channel churns with steel and smoke. Vessels bristling with guns, decks crowded with men like you. You climb aboard your landing craft, its metal floor cold beneath your boots, the smell of oil and salt thick in the air. The sky is low and gray, wind snapping at your jacket, spray stinging your face. The crossing is long, choppy. Waves slap the hull, men sway, some retch into helmets, the sound lost beneath the drone of engines. Officers murmur last instructions. Keep your head down. Follow the man ahead. Don't stop. You grip your rifle tighter, knuckles white. Around you, faces are pale, lips tight, eyes distant. Some whisper prayers, others hum softly, as if to anchor themselves. One man fiddles with a lucky coin, rubbing it between thumb and forefinger. Another pulls out a photograph, staring at it as though trying to memorize every detail before stepping into chaos. A quirky detail. Many soldiers smeared their faces with charcoal or mud, convinced it would make them harder to spot, though it only made them look like figures from a masquerade of fear. Some tucked playing cards into helmets, aces for luck. Others chalked messages on landing craft, names, jokes, small defiance against the enormity ahead. You scrawl nothing, only tighten your grip and breathe. As the French coast rises on the horizon, thunder begins. Naval guns roar, shells streaking overhead, exploding against German defenses hidden among cliffs and dunes. The ground shudders even here, miles offshore. Smoke blooms in dark clouds, the air shaking with concussions. Planes roar overhead, thousands of them, their shadows flickering across waves. Paratroopers have already jumped into darkness hours earlier, scattered across fields and hedgerows. You think of them, drifting down under silk canopies into unknown fire. And you wonder what they see now. The landing craft lurches closer, closer. The shoreline takes shape. Beaches, seawalls, pillboxes, wire snarled like brambles. You hear machine guns crack, bullets snapping across water. The ramp rattles, chains clanking. The sergeant shouts, voice barely audible over chaos. When it drops, move, don't stop. The ramp slams down. Water rushes in, icy around your knees. Men stumble, splash forward, some falling, some vanishing beneath waves weighted by packs too heavy. You push forward, rifle held high, boots slipping on sand, water-soaking trousers. The noise is overwhelming. Shouts, explosions, gunfire, the whine of ricochets. Sand sprays your face, metal clangs, bodies surge around you. Yet even in this storm, odd fragments stick. A soldier to your left mutters a joke through clenched teeth, something absurd about wanting bacon instead of bullets. Another hums a swing tune, voice thin but defiant. These quirks seem insane, but they tether you to humanity in a place trying to strip it away. Historians debate the exact feelings of soldiers in these first moments. Were they frozen in terror, or did adrenaline sharpen them into machines? Letters suggest both. Some wrote later of trembling so violently they could barely load rifles. Others remembered a strange calm, as if watching themselves from outside. For you, it feels like both. Terror and clarity tangled, every sense heightened, every step a battle. You push past the surf onto sand, boots sinking, breath ragged. Ahead, obstacles jut from the beach. Iron crosses, stakes tipped with mines. You weave through, stumbling, crouching as bullets hiss. Explosions rip craters into sand, showers of earth raining down. You throw yourself into one, breath shallow, heart hammering. Around you, men shout, call for medics, crawl forward inch by inch. Time warps. Minutes stretch into eternities. You don't measure progress in yards, but in breaths, in heartbeats. You think of home, of letters unopened, of the bugle at camp, of the sea crossing. You think of nothing at all. Only the next step, the next breath. The beach is endless, yet you know you must cross it. Somehow, through smoke and chaos, you push forward. You reach the seawall, collapse behind it, chest heaving, hands trembling. You made it. For now. Around you, men regroup. Officers shout orders, medics tend wounds. Above, German guns still crack, but Allied fire presses back. Slowly, painfully, the tide begins to turn, and you realize the waiting is over. The war is no longer distant, no longer rumor or drill. It is here in sand and smoke, in breath and blood. Normandy is only the beginning, and you are in it now, carried forward not by choice, but by history itself. The night before is restless. You lie in a hammock below deck, the air hot and thick with sweat and nerves. Around you, men shift, cough, whisper. Some pray quietly into the dark, lips moving over rosaries or folded letters. Others joke too loudly, their laughter brittle. You close your eyes, but sleep doesn't come. Just the steady thrum of the ship's engines, and the knowledge that tomorrow you will step into history. The invasion has been whispered for weeks. The big one. But now it's here, and you are on the manifest. Your boots, polished by routine, feel suddenly heavier. When the order comes, it's not shouted but carried in low, steady voices. The ship sways as you gather gear. Helmet, pack, rifle, canteen. The straps dig into your shoulders. Someone mutters, "Too much damn weight." You nod. Your load is 60 pounds at least. Ammunition, grenades, rations, entrenching tool. You try to imagine carrying it all through surf and sand, but the thought makes your stomach churn. You just keep moving. On deck, the sea wind slaps your face, cold and sharp. Dawn hasn't yet broken, but the horizon glows faintly. Around you, other ships loom. So many that it feels like the ocean itself has been paved with steel. Battleships, cruisers, transports, all lined up in formation, their lights blacked out. Somewhere out there are destroyers shelling the coast, their guns thundering in rhythm. Each boom rattles your chest. The scale of it is overwhelming, almost dreamlike. You climb into the landing craft. The metal floor is slick, the sides rattling as men shuffle shoulder to shoulder. The ramp clanks shut in front, cutting off the horizon. Now you see only the backs of helmets, the whites of eyes glinting in the dim light. The craft lurches, spray flying over the edge, soaking your boots. You grip your rifle tight, knuckles pale. The smell of diesel and vomit mixes with salt. The sea is rough, the landing craft slamming against waves. You sway, knees buckling, body jolted with each crash. Men around you curse, retch, groan. You stare down at the floor, counting breaths. Somewhere overhead, planes drone. Hundreds of them. You imagine paratroopers dropping through the night, their silk canopies blooming like ghosts against the dark sky. You wonder what they see below them. Fields, hedgerows, rivers glowing faintly in moonlight. You wonder how many already lie tangled in trees or caught by the enemy before their boots touched ground. The boat shudders as shells whistle overhead. The battleships are pounding the beaches, geysers of sand and smoke rising far off. You can't see it yet, but you feel it in your chest. A man next to you whispers, "We're making history." Another mutters, "We're making corpses." You both laugh, but it's nervous, thin. When the ramp finally drops, the world erupts. The sound is immediate, overwhelming. Machine gun fire stitching the air, shells cracking, men shouting. Salt spray and smoke sting your eyes. Ahead is the beach, wider and flatter than you imagined, scattered with obstacles. Wooden stakes, iron crosses, mines lashed to timbers. Water churns red in patches. Officers shout, "Go, go!" and men surge forward. You stumble, boots sinking into surf, water rising to your chest. Your rifle stays above your head, clutched like a relic. Bullets snap overhead, sharp as whips. You push forward, lungs burning with cold salt water, pack dragging you down. Men stumble, some vanish beneath waves, pulled under by weight or wounds. A body drifts past, face pale in the froth. You force yourself not to look. Your legs feel slow, heavy, but you keep moving. The beach looms closer, sand darker under smoke. At last, you reach shallows. Stumbling onto wet sand, you drop flat, chest heaving, waves slapping your boots. The sand is coarse, gritty in your mouth. Machine guns rake the beach, sparks flying as rounds strike metal obstacles. You crawl, dragging yourself inch by inch. Your helmet rings as dirt sprays over you. The air smells of cordite, smoke, seaweed, blood. A sergeant waves, shouting orders drowned by gunfire. You follow, crawling toward a ridge of shingle. Men cluster there, panting, eyes wide. Some fumble with rifles, others dig frantically, trying to carve shallow pits in the sand. The sergeant points toward a bluff where machine guns flash. "We move on my signal," he roars. You nod, though your throat is too dry to answer. Time feels strange. Seconds stretch, minutes blur. You hear voices, someone sobbing for his mother, another laughing hysterically. A medic crouches beside a wounded man, hands slick with blood. He mutters, "Hold on, buddy," though you both know he won't. You press your face into the sand, wishing you could sink into it, vanish beneath it. But then the sergeant waves, and you rise again. You run. Sand slips under your boots, pack dragging, lungs screaming. Bullets snap past, men fall beside you, but you keep going, eyes fixed on the bluff. At the base, you dive again, pressing against cool earth. Grenades arc overhead, explosions rattling dirt into your helmet. Step by step, blast by blast, you climb. When at last you crest the ridge, the world tilts. Behind you, the sea is a haze of smoke and fire. Ships still firing, waves littered with craft. Ahead lies France, fields, villages, hedgerows stretching inland, faint in morning light. You collapse, chest heaving, and realize you made it. You are on the continent. The invasion is real. Historians still argue how many details of that morning are clear. Was the German resistance at certain beaches heavier than at others? Did paratroopers land where planned, or scatter wildly in the dark? The records conflict. Eyewitnesses disagree. But one thing is certain. The landings opened the door to Europe. The war shifted that day. Quirky details linger too. Some soldiers carried playing cards tucked in helmets for luck. Others photos of sweethearts sealed in plastic. One swore he survived because he wore a pigeon feather in his boot, a charm from his grandmother. Such tokens mattered. flimsy shields against chaos. Perhaps you have one in your pocket too. A lucky coin you touch between bursts of fire, whispering a silent plea. Now, as you crouch in the churned dirt, France stretching before you, you feel both exhausted and alive. You survive the crossing, the surf, the sand. Tomorrow promises more fighting, more loss. But tonight, if it can be called night under this smoky dawn, you are still here. And in war, sometimes that is everything. The smoke of Normandy's beaches drifts behind you, and now you find yourself pushing inland. The land feels nothing like the flat sand you just survived. Here in the countryside of northern France, it is hedgerow country. A maze of thick earthen embankments lined with tangled roots, thorny bushes, and ancient trees. You might expect farm fields to be open and clear, but these hedgerows rise taller than a man, enclosing fields and green walls. Each one is its own fortress. Each turn conceals danger. You move carefully, rifle at the ready, boots squelching in damp soil. The air smells of churned earth, crushed grass, and faint smoke drifting from farmhouses. Somewhere distant, artillery thunders like a storm rolling across the horizon. The hedgerows are deceptively quiet. You hear birdsong mixed with the click of safety catches, the shuffle of men spreading out. Your heart thumps louder than your boots. The first skirmish is sudden. A burst of machine gun fire rips from the far side of a hedgerow. The squad drops, pressing faces into dirt. Bullets thud into earth just above your head, soil sprinkling down. Orders hiss through the line. Flank left, grenades ready. You crawl forward, elbows scraping roots, pack snagging on thorns. A grenade arcs over, explodes with a dull thump. Silence follows, broken by groans. Then the sergeant's voice. Move. You scramble through, rifle steady, and find the enemy's post shattered, helmets scattered. This is how it goes for days. Field after field, hedgerow after hedgerow. Each one takes sweat, blood, and nerve to cross. Tanks are nearly useless here. Trapped by the narrow lanes, ambushed by weapons hidden in green walls. Infantry must grind forward, yard by yard. The sun climbs high, beating down on helmets, then dips low, casting hedgerows into deeper shadow. At night you lie in ditches, staring up at stars, listening for footsteps that might be friend or foe. Sleep comes in bursts, shallow and fragile. Quirky though it sounds, soldiers sometimes compared these hedgerows to giant chessboards. Every move had to be calculated, every field a square contested. Farmers had built these walls over centuries, never imagining they'd one day become battlegrounds. Cows still graze in some corners, bewildered by the chaos. Once, pushing through a hedgerow, you stumble upon a farmhouse intact. Chickens pecking near the door. The surreal normalcy makes you laugh, though your laugh is hollow. The days blur into one another. You begin to measure time not by clocks, but by rations, by the weight of your canteen, by the rhythm of shells falling. Meals are cold, eaten crouched, bread dry as dust, canned meat greasy and unappetizing. Yet you eat, because hunger gnaws sharper than taste. Water grows precious, often muddy, tasting faintly of tin. Letters from home arrive sometimes, crumpled from travel, smelling faintly of familiar kitchens or the perfume of a sweetheart. You tuck them close, reading lines until they blur. Historians still argue whether the American Army adapted quickly enough to hedgerow fighting. Some accounts praise the ingenuity. Engineers welding prongs to tanks to slice through embankments. Others note the staggering cost in men and time. You cannot say which is true. You only know the sweat, the crawling, the sudden crack of gunfire, the endless forward push. At night, campfires are forbidden. You sit in darkness, whispering with men beside you. Someone tells a joke about officers, Someone else sings a verse of a country tune before trailing into silence. You lean back, staring at stars, and think of the beach, of the ramp dropping, of how close you came to not seeing this sky. You wonder how many hedgerows remain, how many fields until open land. The answer never comes. You notice how the war changes you in small ways. You move quieter now, eyes always scanning for movement. Your body reacts faster, diving at the sound of a crack. Even laughter feels different, edged with tension. You find yourself grateful for absurd things. A dry pair of socks, a cigarette shared, the rare taste of fresh bread from a French villager grateful to be free. One day, as you push through yet another hedgerow, you meet children waving shyly, their hair tousled, their smiles tentative. They offer apples, bruised but sweet. You crouch to take one, and their mother murmurs thanks in a language you don't fully understand. Yet the meaning is clear. Relief, gratitude, fragile hope. It steadies you more than rations ever could. The hedgerows seem endless, but slowly the line pushes forward. Villages loom closer, roads widen, tanks rumble again. You realize that Normandy is no longer just beachheads. It is becoming foothold, and foothold is becoming advance. The fields that resisted you now lie behind, and the war stretches eastward. Yet as you rest in a ditch, rifle across your knees, you know the memory of hedgerows will remain. The green walls, the hidden fire, the crawling patience. They are not grand battles etched in history books, but they are the grind that makes those battles possible. And you, weary but unbroken, are part of that grind. The hedgerows fade behind you, and now the path winds into villages. Small towns with names you can barely pronounce appear along the dusty roads, their stone walls scarred, their windows shattered. You approach cautiously at first, rifle steady, expecting fire from every corner. But as you round into a square, something unexpected happens. People appear. Civilians, men, women, children, emerge from doorways, cellars, barns. Their faces are thin from rationing, their clothes patched and faded, but their eyes shine. You hear the first cry, "Les Américains." The word ripples through the crowd, and then they're running toward you, children waving flowers, women carrying loaves of bread, old men shaking your hands with trembling grip. A girl no older than 12 presses a bouquet of wildflowers into your palm. A woman kisses your cheek, tears streaking her dusty face. The square fills with clapping, cheering, laughter. After weeks of mud and hedgerows, the sound feels like sunlight. Bread is passed around, crusty and warm despite flour shortages. Someone uncorks a dusty bottle of wine, hidden since the occupation, and cups are raised shakily. You sip, the taste sharp, earthy, foreign, but it washes down dust and fear. Cigarettes are traded like gold, laughter bubbles, music drifts from a battered accordion. You lean against a wall, helmet tilted back, and for a moment you almost forget the war stretches on. Almost. Quirky though it seems, some soldiers scribbled their names on walls or helmets left behind, souvenirs for the villagers. Children asked for chocolate, which many soldiers carried in rations. Some offered gum instead, sticking it to fingers with a grin. There's a strange sweetness in these exchanges, tiny, ordinary things amid ruin. Historians still debate how widespread these joyous liberations truly were. Some towns welcomed soldiers with tears and flowers. Others, wary from reprisals or divided loyalties, kept quiet. The truth is messy, but the memory remains bright. As you linger, you notice scars on the village. Bullet holes stitched across a church wall, roofs collapsed from bombs, burned out trucks rusting near the square. Liberation feels joyful, but it is joy layered over rubble. One man shakes your hand, then gestures to the empty seat beside him, murmuring names you don't understand. You realize he is listing family members lost. His smile fades, eyes dim, but he still squeezes your hand, grateful nonetheless. Freedom is celebration, but also grief. Nights in liberated villages are different from foxholes. You sleep in barns, on hay that pricks your skin, but smells sweet after weeks of mud. Chickens cluck softly nearby, cats curl at your feet. The villagers bring what they can, soups of thin broth, bread hard but filling. You sit by lamplight, listening to stories told in broken English and gestures. Laughter breaks through language barriers, and the warmth of a hearth replaces the chill of hedgerow nights. Still, the war seeps in. You hear distant artillery, see columns of smoke on horizons. Soldiers on patrol sometimes find collaborators, villagers accused of helping occupiers, dragged into streets, heads shaved, shame painted across their faces. The reality of liberation is complicated, uneven, sometimes cruel. Historians note that not all welcomes were equal, not all kisses innocent. But in your memory, what lingers is the laughter of children chasing after your boots, waving, their joy genuine and bright. Marching through another town, you see flags unfurled, French tricolors hidden for years suddenly waving from windows. Banners painted with "Vive l'Amérique" hang crookedly but proudly. You see faces pressed to glass, eyes wide with wonder at convoys rolling past. You smile, wave back, though fatigue weighs heavy. Your boots crunch glass, your uniform stiff with dirt. But in their eyes, you are a liberator, a symbol larger than yourself. Quieter moments stay with you too. Once, walking a darkened street, you hear a piano playing from a ruined house. The melody drifts through broken shutters, hesitant but beautiful. You pause, rifle loose at your side, and listen. The tune is unfamiliar, yet the emotion in it, relief, sorrow, hope, is clear. You realize music carries across languages as easily as laughter. As days pass, liberated towns blur together, yet each brings small comforts. Fresh bread, a child's smile, a night in a bed instead of mud. Each also reminds you of what's at stake. The faces relieved to see you, the stories of neighbors vanished in the night, the fear finally loosening from shoulders. Liberation is not just military progress. It is lives, untangled from occupation. You march eastward again, but now the memory of villages lingers, tucked into your pack with letters from home. You carry the smell of bread, the echo of cheers, the weight of flowers pressed into your palm. You know darker days lie ahead, but you also know this. For some, your presence meant freedom, and that is something worth carrying through every mile yet to come. The villages blur behind you, and the road ahead stretches eastward. It is no longer hedgerows and farmsteads, but convoys, long lines of trucks and tanks grinding forward day after day. You climb into the back of a canvas-covered truck, knees pressed against another soldier's, rifle propped between boots. The engine growls, exhaust thick in your nose, and the landscape scrolls past like a tired film reel. Burned barns, shattered bridges, orchards stripped bare. Sometimes you glimpse farmers returning to ruined fields, bent figures sowing seed among shell craters. Other times, only silence. You bounce along rutted roads, the metal floor hammering your spine. Dust coats your face, clings to sweat, stings your eyes. You wipe it away with a sleeve, but it returns instantly. Men try to nap sitting up, heads lolling with each jolt. Others mutter, play cards on helmets, chew gum endlessly. Conversation drifts, food, home, baseball. girlfriends. The rhythm of wheels and engines fills every pause. The march east is relentless. The German army falls back, yet never vanishes, always striking from shadows. Bridges are blown, delaying progress. Roadblocks appear overnight, defended by machine guns. Ambushes spark in woods, then vanishes suddenly. You learn not to trust quiet stretches. A bird taking flight, a sudden hush in the wind. Both make you clutch your rifle tighter. Quirky details stick out. Soldiers sometimes tied cans to trucks, rattling them to warn civilians ahead, or chalked cartoons onto helmets for luck. Convoys often included livestock, pigs or chickens picked up along the way, clucking in crates strapped to jeeps. Once, your truck halts and you watch a soldier share his cigarette with a goat tethered behind, the absurdity drawing weary laughter. These small oddities are what keep fatigue from drowning you. Nights on the road are harsher. You dig foxholes by headlights, scooping dirt with entrenching tools, sweat dripping in moonlight. The ground is hard, roots snagging shovels. But you dig because without a hole, you're a target. You line it with ponchos, huddle under thin blankets, rifle across your knees. The cold seeps in. Your breath fogs the air. Insects crawl, boots remain damp. But exhaustion forces sleep in short bursts. Sometimes shells whistle overhead, distant but close enough to jolt you awake. Other times, silence stretches so long you almost miss the sound of battle. Historians still argue about the pace of this push across France. Some accounts praise the speed, how American and Allied forces advanced hundreds of miles in weeks after Normandy. Others stress the chaos. Logistics stretched thin, fuel shortages halting tanks, supply lines snarled. You don't see charts or maps. You only see endless roads, ration tins, dust. Progress is measured not in miles, but in days survived. Letters from home arrive irregularly. You read by flashlight, words trembling in your hands. A letter might describe harvests, a sibling's school dance, a neighbor's wedding. The normalcy aches. You fold the paper carefully, tucking it close, almost afraid it will vanish if you look too long. When no letter comes, you invent words in your head, imagining voices of family carried across the ocean. Some towns you pass are wrecked beyond recognition. Church steeples collapsed, schools burned, houses roofless. You see civilians walking with carts piled high, pots, bedding, a child clinging to a doll. They nod at you silently. Their eyes carry stories you cannot ask. Liberation is not neat banners here, but quiet endurance. In contrast, soldiers' endurance grows mechanical. Wake, march, dig, eat, march again. Meals blur. Canned meat, a biscuit so hard they chip teeth. Instant coffee, bitter and comforting. Cigarettes are constant, lit by match after match, smoke curling over tired faces. Helmets serve as bowls, seats, wash basins. The uniform stiffens with dirt until it feels like armor you cannot shed. The march east carries rumors too. Whispers of Paris liberated, of other armies converging, of German collapse. Yet every rumor feels distant, blurred by fatigue. What is real are the boots on your feet, blistered and cracked. The straps on your pack, cutting deep into shoulders. The rifle weight, familiar and endless. Sometimes, though, the monotony breaks with surreal moments. In one village, children wave flags scrawled from bed sheets, running alongside convoys until breathless. In another, an old man lifts a battered accordion, playing a tune you don't know but feel in your chest. Soldiers toss rations to him, coins, even a can of peaches. He bows, music fading as trucks roll on. You learn to live in fragments. 10 minutes of laughter at a joke, a cigarette shared, a sip of water cold from a stream. War shrinks life down to the smallest comforts. Yet beneath it all, the road keeps pulling you eastward. The Rhine lies ahead, though you cannot yet picture it. Germany lies ahead, though the maps are just lines. What you know is the march, the grind of wheels, the ache of shoulders, the horizon always shifting, never arriving. As you doze against the truck's canvas wall, the engine's hum lulling you, you realize the war has become not just battles, but movement itself. You are always going forward, always being carried by rumbling engines and weary legs. Eastward, always eastward, until the war itself decides to stop. Winter closes around you like a fist. The long convoys and endless marches slow as frost grips the fields, as snow buries the roads, as breath turns white in the air. You find yourself crouched in the Ardennes, a dense forest of bare branches and tangled pines, foxholes dug into frozen ground. The trees creak in the wind, snow muffles sound, and yet danger feels closer than ever. You scrape at the dirt with your entrenching tool, but the ground is hard as iron. Each stroke sparks against stone, and your breath fogs before your face. At last, a shallow hole opens, barely deep enough to shelter you. You line it with fir branches, cover it with your poncho, curl into it like an animal. The cold seeps in anyway, gnawing at fingers and toes. Frostbite whispers in tingling numbness. Your boots stay wet for days. You press your socks to your chest at night, hoping body heat will dry them. Meals arrive sporadically. Lukewarm soup in cans, hard biscuits, bitter coffee. Sometimes you heat food over a tiny flame, shielding it with your helmet to hide the glow. Other times you eat it frozen, teeth cracking, just to keep your stomach from twisting. Quirky though it seems, men discover tricks, rubbing snow on faces to stay awake, wrapping paper in boots to add a layer against cold. Historians note soldiers stuffed newspapers into jackets, hoping headlines might warm them more than words. The Ardennes is quiet, unnervingly so. You hear the occasional bird, the crack of trees splitting in frost, but little else. It lulls you, tricks you into thinking the war has paused. Then, one morning, the world explodes. Shells rain through the trees. Snow blossoms into clouds of dirt and fire. Machine guns rattle, bullets snapping branches overhead. Voices shout in German, closer than you thought possible. It is the Battle of the Bulge, though you don't yet know its name. All you know is chaos. The forest fills with smoke. Men scramble from foxholes, rifles crack. The Germans surge with tanks and infantry, catching the lines thin, hoping to punch through to the west. For days, the forest becomes a labyrinth of fire and snow. You fire until your shoulder aches, reload with fingers stiff from cold. You drag wounded comrades through drifts, breath tearing your throat raw. At night, the forest glows with the orange of burning villages. Shadows leap across the snow. You huddle deeper, rifle across your chest, ears ringing. The sky above is clouded, no stars, only smoke and flicker. You whisper to yourself to stay awake, to stay alive. One night, snow falls silently over the battlefield, covering bodies, smoothing craters. It is eerie, almost peaceful. You sit in your foxhole watching flakes drift onto your rifle barrel. They melt instantly from the heat of your hands. Somewhere, faint singing rises. Silent night, sung softly, maybe by Germans, maybe by Americans. The tune carries, fragile and haunting, then fades into the wind. Scholars still debate whether such moments of shared carols really happened, or whether they were memories reshaped by longing for peace. In the foxhole, though, you believe it. Supplies run thin. Fuel is scarce, rations shorter. You chew chocolate slowly, letting it melt as if it were gold. Cigarettes burn fast, their smoke curling into the cold air, comfort and waste in equal measure. Letters from home arrive late. words trembling from hands you can't touch. You read them under your blanket, the ink blurred by candle smoke. The forest becomes a place of waiting. You wait for dawn, for relief, for the sound of tanks rolling in your favor. The Germans push, but the line bends without breaking. Reinforcements arrive slowly, heavy armor grinding through snow. The forest that once echoed with enemy shouts begins to echo with your own artillery, steady and relentless. Historians still argue about the turning points, whether it was Bastonia's stubborn defense, or the arrival of Patton's Third Army, or simply German fuel running out. To you, it is simpler. The turning point is each day you wake in your foxhole, alive, rifle still in hand. Each sunrise over snow is proof the line holds. The cold never eases, though. You wrap your coat tighter, tuck your face into your scarf, shift your frozen boots to keep blood flowing. Fingers crack, skin splits, nose bleeds from the air. Yet you adapt. You learn to melt snow for water, to warm hands against rifle barrels, to sleep in bursts while shells thunder. Survival becomes a rhythm. One morning, after weeks of fire and frost, the forest grows quieter again. Smoke lifts. The horizon clears. The line no longer bends. It holds firm. You rise stiffly, legs aching, and realize the push has failed. The Germans retreat, leaving burned villages and broken tanks in their wake. The Ardennes is scarred, but you are still here. You lean against a tree, helmet tilted back, and breathe in air sharp with pine and smoke. Snow still lies heavy, but in the distance, you hear trucks moving eastward. The road pulls again. The forest is behind you now. Ahead waits the Rhine. The snow of the Ardennes lingers in your memory, even as spring begins to soften the air. The forest fades behind you, and the march east resumes. Heavier now, but steadier. Ahead lies the Rhine, that ancient river winding through Germany, long sung in poems and guarded like a boundary of fate. To cross it is to step not just into another country, but into the enemy's heartland. You can feel the weight of it in every rumor, every whispered briefing. The Rhine is no ordinary obstacle. Convoys line the roads again, trucks groaning under supplies, tanks crawling forward, soldiers marching in dust. The landscape has changed. Villages more German than French, architecture sharper, fields more rigidly ordered. Civilians watch with guarded eyes, some closing shutters, some staring silently as you pass. The war feels closer now. Not distant lines collapsing, but a nation resisting on its own soil. At night, you bivouac in barns or ditches, the air damp with spring thaw. Fires are lit carefully, smoke kept low. Rations remain the same, canned meat, biscuits, instant coffee. But they taste different now, eaten with the Rhine looming in every thought. The river is wide, swift, dark with meltwater, and the enemy has fortified its banks with concrete bunkers, machine guns, artillery. You hear stories of earlier attempts. Bridges blown, boats sunk, men swept away. Scholars still argue how coordinated the crossings really were. Whether luck or planning mattered most. To you, sitting in mud with your rifle across your knees, the distinction feels academic. What matters is whether you'll make it across at all. The night before, you line up silently. Engineers pass by, checking boats, laying pontoon bridges piece by piece under cover of smoke. The air smells of oil and wet canvas, of sweat hidden under heavy coats. Planes drone overhead, their engines steady, carrying bombs deeper into Germany. Artillery fires in rolling thunder, shells exploding across the far bank to suppress guns waiting there. The ground shakes, water ripples, ears ring. When the order comes, you climb into a boat, wooden, shallow, crowded with men like you. Oars dip into the current, creaking, splashing. The river pulls strong, icy against your boots. You grip the gunwale, knuckles tight, heart pounding. Across the water, flashes burst, tracers streaking red and green, shells kicking up fountains. Spray blinds you, smoke chokes you, but the boat surges forward. Someone shouts, someone falls. You press low, rifle across your chest, praying the water does not swallow you. Halfway across, the current nearly spins the boat. Oars dig desperately, men leaning, grunting, pulling. You glimpse other boats, some ahead, some spinning out of control, some broken and drifting. Bodies bob in the water, helmets glinting briefly before sinking. The river seems endless, yet suddenly the shore rises ahead, muddy, jagged, littered with wire and stakes. The boat scrapes land. You leap, stumbling into waist-deep water, pushing forward with legs numb from cold. Bullets whip overhead, sparks flying from rocks. You scramble onto the bank, dropping flat, chest heaving. The mud clings thick, sucking at your boots. Around you, men press forward, crawling, firing, dragging one another. Smoke drifts low, covering and confusing all at once. Step by step, blast by blast, the far bank is taken. Engineers throw down planks. Tanks crawl onto pontoon bridges. Artillery thunders closer. You rise, mud dripping, rifle steady, and push inland. Behind you, more boats cross. More men pour onto the shore. The Rhine is breached. Historians mark this as a turning point. Once the Allies crossed, Germany's defenses began to unravel. Yet uncertainty remains. Was the crossing inevitable, given the state of the war, or was it a miracle of coordination and bravery? You cannot say. You only remember the icy pull of the current, the smell of smoke, the feel of mud giving way under your boots as you stumbled into Germany itself. Quirky details stand out in memory. Some men carried small bottles of Rhine water home, souvenirs of that crossing. Others scribbled graffiti on captured walls. First across, or Rhine or bust. One soldier swore he'd seen a cow drift across on a raft of debris, mooing indignantly. You laugh at the story, though your laugh is thin. War is absurd like that. Terror and comedy tangled together. As the days pass, you march deeper into Germany. The towns grow more damaged, the faces more sullen. Children watch silently, some saluting, some scowling. Civilians hang white sheets from windows, signals of surrender, though not always willingly. The air smells of smoke and damp stone, streets cluttered with rubble. You march with tired legs, yet the sense of momentum builds. The Rhine is behind you, the enemy's heart lies ahead. Each step carries you deeper into the story, deeper into the war's closing chapter. Yet for all the victories, you feel unease. The land feels wounded, heavy with silence. The war is not over, not yet. You keep marching, boots steady, rifle steady, heart uncertain. The Rhine is behind you. But the war does not end with the river. It stretches onward, deeper into forests and towns, into streets where resistance stiffens even as collapse whispers in the distance. You march through Germany itself now, a land both familiar and alien. Stone houses with steep roofs, orchards in blossom, roads lined with trees. The countryside is quiet, but the quiet is deceptive. Every bend could conceal machine guns, every cellar could hide grenades. You ride in convoys at times, trucks rattling over cobblestones, boots and helmets clanking in rhythm. At other times, you march on foot, rifles slung, eyes scanning rooftops. The air smells of damp earth and burning coal, smoke still rising from chimneys even in ruined towns. Civilians peer from windows, some with wary eyes, some with faces blank as slate. The war is no longer a story of liberation here. It is occupation, invasion, reckoning. Combat becomes a rhythm of sudden bursts. One day you creep through a forest, the trees whispering overhead, when shells explode around you, bark splintering, ground shaking. You hit the dirt, heart hammering, ears ringing. Orders crackle. Flank left, hold fire, push forward. You crawl, mud caking your hands, until you see shadows moving between trees. Enemy soldiers, young, frightened, firing wildly. You return fire, your rifle bucking against your shoulder. Minutes stretch, then end abruptly, leaving silence heavy as smoke. The next day you're in a town, streets narrow and winding. Tanks grind slowly forward, their guns swiveling. You follow, boots crunching broken glass. Windows gape dark, doorways loom suspicious. Then a crack of gunfire, a burst from a hidden cellar. The tank answers with a shell, the building shattering. Dust fills your mouth, eyes sting. You press against a wall, coughing. When it clears, the street is rubble. The firing ceased. You move on. Every town feels like this. Advance, clash, silence. The war has become not sweeping battles, but grinding steps. Yet each step carries weight. Each block taken another piece of a collapsing enemy. Historians note the German army by now was fractured. Some units fighting to the last, others surrendering quickly. Scholars still argue how much resistance was desperate loyalty, how much was fear of their own commanders. You do not debate, you only push forward, one street, one day, one breath at a time. Quirky moments punctuate the grimness. In one village, a farmer offers eggs in exchange for cigarettes. In another, children watch you march past, then mimic your stride, laughing until shooed away by nervous mothers. Once, in a captured house, you find a piano still intact. A soldier in your squad, who never mentioned music before, sits down and plays a ragged tune. The sound fills the ruined room, men grinning, tapping feet, humming along. For a brief minute, the war vanishes, replaced by notes rising into the dust. Rumors swirl constantly now. Some say Hitler is dead already. Others swear he commands armies still hidden in mountains. Some say the Russians are close, pushing from the east with equal fury. Others whisper of secret weapons, jets faster than sound, rockets that can reach across oceans. You don't know what to believe. All you know is the road beneath your boots, the ache in your shoulders, the weight of your rifle. Nights blur together. You sleep in barns, cellars, ruined schools. Sometimes hay cushions you, sometimes only cold stone. Meals are the same. Cans opened with knives, biscuits broken with numb fingers, coffee boiled black and bitter. Cigarettes burn endlessly, their smoke curling in rafters. You talk quietly with comrades, swapping stories of home, sometimes imagining what peace will look like. No one agrees. Some picture parades. Some picture silence. Some picture nothing at all. Then there are the prisoners. Columns of captured German soldiers shuffle past, helmets gone, hands raised. Some are boys, barely 16, their eyes wide with fear. Others are older, weary, blank-faced. You stare at them, trying to reconcile the fire they spat hours before with the silent figures now trudging away. Some spit or curse, others bow heads. Historians argue whether these men fought from conviction or compulsion. To you, they are simply done, while you march on. The forests thin, the towns grow larger, rivers crossed on hurried pontoon bridges. The push east gathers momentum. You hear word of cities falling, armies surrendering, leaders fleeing. The end feels closer, yet the fighting remains sharp. Each skirmish could still end you. You remind yourself, as you clean your rifle at night, that survival is never guaranteed, not even now. And still, amid rubble and ruin, moments of life persist. A church bell rings one evening, startling everyone, its rope pulled by villagers long silenced, daring to sound again. A dog trots along beside your column for miles, tail wagging, scavenging scraps, a companion in absurdity. Someone finds a deck of cards and games spring up in ditches, laughter echoing under moonlight. Even as the war tightens its grip, humanity refuses to vanish. You march on, through forests and fields, over rivers and roads, deeper into the heart of Germany. The Rhine was a line, a boundary. Now it is behind you, and only the war's final act lies ahead. You cannot see its shape, but you feel its weight in every mile, in every rumor, in every dawn breaking over towns where smoke still rises. The road east narrows, and the air grows heavier. You march through villages stripped bare, fields littered with wreckage, forests still whispering of skirmishes. And then one day, the march halts. Not for another river crossing or ambush, but for something you cannot yet name. The air is wrong here. Quiet, but not peaceful. The closer you move, the more your nose burns with a smell you do not recognize at first. Sweet and acrid all at once, like burned rubber mixed with sickness. You glance at the men beside you. They wrinkle noses, cover mouths. None of you speak. The gates appear ahead. Barbed wire, guard towers, the skeleton of a railway track leading inward. You think at first it is another military outpost, perhaps a factory. But as you step closer, you see the shapes beyond the wire. Barracks, low and cramped, fences stretching far, figures moving slowly, too slowly, inside. Your stomach knots. This is not a battlefield. This is something else entirely. The gates swing open. A few guards linger, but most have fled, leaving their posts abandoned. You move cautiously, rifle ready, but no shots come. Instead, the figures inside stumble toward you. They are people, but so thin, so wasted. Their skin clings to bone, their eyes hollow. Striped uniforms hang loose, ribs visible beneath. They raise trembling hands, not in surrender, but in something else. Hope, disbelief. You cannot tell. The smell intensifies inside. It clings to every board, every rag, every breath. You see barracks with bunks stacked like crates, straw blackened with filth. You see piles of shoes, spectacles, children's toys gathered in heaps. You see bodies, too many to count, lying unattended in corners, abandoned when guards fled. Your stomach lurches. You swallow hard. Some prisoners speak weakly, their voices cracked from thirst. Others only reach out, fingers brushing your sleeve as if to test whether you are real. A medic rushes forward, offering water, but too much too quickly makes some collapse. You remember ration rules, how even food can kill if given too fast to the starved. You stand frozen, rifle heavy in your hands, useless here. Historians have long debated how much ordinary soldiers knew before they reached the camps. Some argue whispers circulated, rumors of camps, of atrocities, but nothing prepared anyone for this. Others claim ignorance was near total, that no one outside truly understood. Standing here, you know the truth. Whatever rumors you might have heard, nothing could match the sight before your eyes. Quirky fragments lodge in memory, even amid horror. One soldier swears he saw a prisoner smile as he tasted chocolate for the first time, his teeth too weak to chew. Another remembers a woman clutching a doll she had stitched from rags, pressing it into a soldier's hands as if it were treasure. Small, surreal details amid overwhelming grief. You and your comrades work quickly, fumbling between shock and duty. Water is given in sips, blankets passed from trucks, medics tending wounds. Radios crackle, summoning more supplies. You watch engineers cut open fences, civilians from nearby villages herded forward to see, to understand what was hidden in their midst. Some villagers weep, some shake their heads, some remain silent. The truth cannot be denied now. The camp sprawls further than you first thought. Warehouses filled with belongings, piles of ash near chimneys, records hastily burned, but fragments still legible. You wander through it, numb, boots crunching gravel, eyes unfocused. The war you thought you understood, beaches, hedgerows, rivers, feels small beside this. Those battles had purpose, tactics, orders. Here you see only cruelty, deliberate and relentless. At night, you lie awake, staring at rafters. The smell clings to your uniform, your hair, your skin. You cannot wash it away. Men around you mutter in their sleep, some crying out, others silent. No one speaks of it in the morning, but the weight is there in every face. Letters home will not mention it, not fully. Words are too weak. Historians still argue over why soldiers' testimonies differed, why some described more, some less, why memory falters under shock. They debate how much was known, how much was concealed, how to measure silence. You are not concerned with arguments. You remember only the faces, the hollow eyes, the trembling hands, the smiles that flickered when you offered a crust of bread. The war continues east, but something has shifted in you. The rifle feels heavier, the marching quieter. Liberation is no longer just towns and flags. It is people stumbling from shadows, clutching life by threads. You carry that with you now, a burden heavier than any pack. As you leave the camp behind, the smell lingers in your nostrils, the images etched behind your eyes. The Rhine seemed like a boundary once, a great crossing. But here, in this place of wire and ash, you realize the true boundary was crossed long ago, between humanity and cruelty. And stepping beyond it, you know the world will never be the same. The road carries you farther east, but now every mile feels different. After the camps, the war has a new weight, as if each ruined town you enter carries echoes of what you saw behind the wire. Still, the orders are clear. Advance, push on. Keep moving until the enemy yields. So you shoulder your rifle, tighten the straps of your pack, and march once more. Germany grows more battered the deeper you go. Villages are hushed, shutters nailed shut. Streets empty except for the clatter of your boots. Some homes wave white sheets in surrender, pale fabric fluttering in spring wind. Others stand defiant, doors barred, eyes watching from cracks. The war is almost over, but danger still waits in cellars and shadows. Every corner might hold a sniper, every roadblock another ambush. You see ruins where whole towns once stood. Churches collapsed into rubble, bells buried under stone. Bridges blown apart, their arches jagged against the river. Factories gutted by bombs, machines twisted into silent skeletons. The land itself seems weary, scarred by years of fire. And yet, life persists. You pass farmers already scratching at soil with hand tools, children peeking out cautiously before ducking away, women drawing water from wells. The war has crushed, but not extinguished. In April, the news spreads quietly at first. Hitler is dead. Some say by bomb, others by poison, others by his own hand in a bunker. The stories conflict, rumors swirl, but the core is the same. The man at the center of this storm is gone. You and the men glance at each other, uncertain. Does this mean the war is over? Not yet. The guns still fire, the orders still come. But something shifts in the air, a sense that the end is finally near. Historians still argue over how quickly the army grasped the news, whether it spread like wildfire or seeped slowly. You remember only whispers carried along convoys, muttered around campfires, uncertain but steady. Then, on May 7th, word arrives. Germany has surrendered. The war in Europe is over. At first, you don't believe it. How can something so vast, so relentless, simply stop? You wait for another order, another march, another dawn of gunfire. But instead, there is silence. Guns are lowered, tanks idle. The rhythm of boots ceases. Men stare at each other in stunned quiet. Then laughter bursts, cheers rise, helmets are tossed into the air. Someone plays a harmonica, the tune clumsy but jubilant. Others uncork bottles saved for just this moment, toasting with shaky hands. You drink, cough at the sharpness, laugh anyway. The war that consumed years has ended in a single announcement. Yet victory feels complicated. There is joy, yes, relief that you survived, that the fighting has ended, but also grief, heavy and unspoken. You think of faces missing in the crowd, men left behind in foxholes, in hedgerows, on beaches. You think of the camps, of hollow eyes that never saw this day. Celebration mingles with silence. Now begins occupation. You remain in Germany, not as conqueror, but as guardian. Orders are to hold towns, patrol streets, maintain order. You walk past civilians who bow their heads, some sullen, some relieved. Children approach cautiously, asking for food, gum, chocolate. You hand over rations, watching small hands clutch them tightly. The people are no longer enemies. Not exactly. They are survivors of a nation unraveling. You billet in houses stripped bare, in schools turned into barracks. The walls echo with voices, laughter, music from radios tuned to foreign stations. Nights are quieter now, though unease lingers. You patrol streets under dim lanterns, hearing dogs bark, seeing shadows move. The war is done, but its ghost remains. Quirky details mark these weeks. Soldiers scavenge bicycles, racing down cobbled lanes. Others trade cigarettes for souvenirs, helmets, daggers, insignia. Some strike up friendships with locals, exchanging halting words, learning songs, sharing stories. The absurd blends with the ordinary. Basketball games in ruined courtyards, dances in town halls with broken windows, letters home filled with talk of bread and coffee instead of bullets. Historians note occupation was uneven. Some units faced hostility, others warmth. Some towns adjusted quickly, others resisted silently. Scholars still argue about the lines between justice and retribution, about what liberation meant for those who had lived under dictatorship. You do not weigh those debates. You see only the daily rhythm: patrol, rest, share rations, write letters. One evening, you sit on a hill outside a town. The Rhine far behind, the forests of Germany stretching before you. The sun sets in soft gold, birds circle lazily, the air calm. For the first time in years, you hear no gunfire, no thunder of artillery. The silence feels strange, almost unreal. You breathe deep, filling lungs with air untainted by smoke. The war is truly over, at least here. And yet, as you sit in the quiet, you know the memory of it will never fully leave. The beaches, the hedgerows, the forests, the river, the camps. They are etched into you. You carry them now, heavier than any pack, longer than any march. Victory is real, but so is the cost. Still, as night falls, you let the silence wash over you. You lean back, watching stars brighten one by one, and for the first time, you let yourself imagine a future not defined by marching east. The war is finished, but your journey is not. Weeks pass, then months, as orders shift from occupation to preparation for going home. You wake each morning in a foreign land, boots by your cot, rifle now more symbol than tool. Patrols grow fewer, the tension eases, but the waiting stretches long. Soldiers mutter about points, about who gets to go home first, about lists posted and rumors whispered. Some men pack early, only to unpack again. Others settle into routines, card games, guard shifts, writing long letters. Time itself feels stretched thin, neither war nor peace, only waiting. At last, your name is called. Orders in hand, you gather your gear. Helmet dented, pack frayed, boots cracked from miles. You board a truck one more time, bouncing down roads that once carried convoys into battle. Now the ride feels lighter, though the air still smells of dust and coal. Villages roll past, quieter than before, children waving less eagerly, adults watching silently. You glance at them, wondering what they see when they look at you. Liberator, occupier, stranger. You do not linger on the thought. Home lies ahead. The trucks carry you to a rail yard. Trains clatter east to west, engines hissing, carriages crowded with soldiers like yourself. You climb aboard, press into a wooden seat, rifles stacked with others near the door. The train lurches forward, fields and forests sliding by. You stare out the window, watching rivers glitter and mountains fade, thinking of every step you march through them. Each passing mile feels like a memory blurred, receding into distance. At the port, ships wait, huge, gray, patient. You queue in long lines, papers checked, names called. The air smells of salt and tar, gulls crying overhead. You shuffle forward, boots heavy, heart pounding. Boarding the ship feels strange, as if time has looped. You remember boarding once before, years ago, seasick and nervous, heading into war. Now you climb the same ramps, but the weight on your shoulders is different. Then it was dread. Now it is exhaustion, relief, uncertainty. The Atlantic stretches once more, gray and endless. The ship rocks, engines hum, waves slap against steel. Men crowd decks, some laughing, some silent, some staring endlessly at the horizon. Meals are served in mess lines, voices echoing in cramped halls. Nights are quieter now. No fear of submarines lurking, no blackout orders. You lie in your bunk, rocking gently, and for the first time in years, you let yourself dream without fear of sudden alarms. The days blur, marked by the ship's horn and the rise of the sun over empty water. Soldiers trade stories, some exaggerated, some quiet. One man recalls Normandy, another Bastogne, another the Rhine. You listen, nodding, adding your own fragments. Together, the stories weave a tapestry of exhaustion and survival. Quirky details rise too. Someone teaches French phrases badly, another strums a guitar missing 2 strings, laughter filling the salty air. It feels almost like normal life, almost. Then, one morning, the cry comes. Land. The coastline appears, faint at first, then clear. The Statue of Liberty rises on the horizon, its torch lifted, a shape you never thought you'd see again. Men crowd the rails, shouting, laughing, some weeping openly. You grip the railing, eyes fixed, throat tight. Home. The ship docks, gangplanks drop, boots clatter on American soil. Crowds wait, bands playing, flags waving, families calling. You step down, pack slung, rifle slapping against your leg. The air smells different here, familiar, warm, filled with food stands and city smoke. You walk down the pier, boots heavy, heart light. Processing takes hours. Papers stamped, uniforms checked, questions asked. Then comes the release. You board one final train, this time headed not eastward into war, but westward, inward, homeward. The countryside scrolls past. Fields you remember, towns familiar, rivers that once seemed ordinary. At each station, men depart, waving, laughing, running into waiting arms. Your stop comes at last. You step down, bag in hand, boots crunching the gravel. Faces wait. Familiar voices call your name. Arms wrap around you, holding tight. The war is behind you, yet even in reunion, something lingers. You smile, laugh, eat, rest. But inside, the memories remain. Beaches, hedgerows, foxholes, rivers, camps. They drift into dreams, surface in quiet moments. Historians later debate how veterans carried the war, whether they spoke of it often, or buried it deep, or lived somewhere between. You cannot know what scholars will decide. You know only that the weight never leaves fully. Quirky souvenirs sit in your pack. A coin from a liberated town, a feather from a helmet charm, a letter carried all the way from Normandy. You place them carefully in a drawer. Years later, someone may ask. You may tell, or you may not. Some stories resist words. For now, though, you sit on your porch, watching the sun set over familiar fields. The air hums with insects, cool against your skin. A dog barks in the distance. Children laugh. A radio plays softly. You lean back, boots off, rifle finally stored away. The world is quiet at last. You survived. You came home. And though you carry the weight of memory, you also carry its light. Comrades' laughter, villagers' cheers, children's smiles, the dawn after fire. The war is part of you, but so is the peace that follows. You close your eyes, breathing deeply, and let the quiet settle like a blanket. Wind down, approx 300 words. The story softens now. The boots stop marching. The rifles fall silent. The convoys no longer rumble. What remains is the hush of twilight, the stillness after storms. You sit in that quiet, letting the weight of history fade into the rhythm of your own breath. Imagine a small town at dusk, porch lights flickering on, crickets tuning their song. The war is far away now, folded into memory, softened by time. You hear only the low hum of evening, the steady heartbeat of peace. The air is warm, the sky streaked with fading gold, the stars waiting their turn. You breathe slower. Each breath draws in calm, releases tension. The faces of comrades fade gently, not lost, but resting. The roar of oceans, the crack of rifles, the thunder of guns, all dissolve into whispers of wind through trees. The world narrows to softness. The creak of a chair, the rustle of leaves, the comfort of home. You remind yourself, history is heavy, but it does not have to be carried awake. You can let it rest for a while, set it down beside you, and step into quiet. The soldiers you walked with, the roads you marched, the rivers you crossed, they wait in story, not in burden. Tonight, all you need is rest. So close your eyes now. Let the hum of background silence wrap around you. Let the story drift away, leaving only stillness. Sleep waits patiently, like an old friend. Step into it. Step fully. Step gently. The war is over. The night is yours.